Before starting this course on career counseling, it is extremely important to understand why you should take your career choice seriously. In this video, we will help you understand the importance of making the right career choice for yourself. So, why is your career choice so important? It is important because it determines a lot of things in your life, including number 1, quality of life. Your career choice plays a huge role in deciding where you live, how flexible your life is, and the kinds of things you are able to do in your free time. Number 2, identity. Ask any elder person about their career and they will tell you about it as a part of their identity. They'll say something like, I am a journalist, instead of, I report news. Notice how everybody asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And not, what do you want to do when you grow up? This shows that your career choice shapes your identity. Number 3, impact. Every human life touches thousands of other lives in so many different ways. If you select any 60-year-old person who is about to retire, take a time machine, find him as an infant, throw that infant into trash, and then come back to the present day, you'll find that a countless number of things around you have changed. So whatever career you choose, the world will be affected by it. Anything that determines your quality of life, your identity, and the impact that you make should be taken very seriously. And that includes your career choice also. So we hope that this short video could help you understand the importance of making the right career choice. Having done that, we will now move forward to start our career counseling course. We are pretty excited and we hope you are too. So let's begin. See you.
वेलकम एवरीबॉडी, सबको स्वागत है. वेलकम टू डे 39 ऑफ प्रोबनोज लाइव पॉडकास्ट. फर्स्टली सारे ऑडियंस मेंबर को स्वागत है. वेलकम मिस्टर सेन, आदित्य, वेलकम टू यू टू एज वेल. एंड ऑफ कोर्स वी हैव सना हजारी विद अस, हु वी ऑलरेडी मेट ऑन वन ऑफ आवर पॉडकास्ट. आई थिंक द रुपिंदर मैम के पॉडकास्ट पे था. एंड वी लर्न जस्ट अ लिटिल बिट अबाउट व्हाट इट इज़ यू डू, बट टुडे वील गेट टू लर्न मच मोर, होपफुली. Definitely. So firstly, Sana, thank you so much for taking time to speak with us. Let me introduce you. Investment banker turned impact entrepreneur. Sana Hazari is currently the founder of the Social Corporate, an impact advisory group through which they provide digital strategy and growth consulting to social organizations, impact funds and SMEs to attain sustainable business models. The group also includes a social tech AI enabled digital platform connecting 135 plus NGOs across India and Africa with volunteers globally. Prior to this, she worked at BMR Advisors, now merged with KPMG India, in the mergers and acquisitions division for 4 years. She has received 2 awards for exemplary project execution in 2019 by the Chairperson of National Council for Teacher Education and by the sales head of Select Cars. She was a speaker at the Social Responsibility Conclave of Deen Dayal Upadhyay College, Delhi University, held on March 5th, 2020, where she was invited to address the student of Business Management, Commerce and Economics Department to discuss the future of social impact sector, the employment opportunities available, and the impact created by the social corporate to date. Along with that, she is a speaker at the Impact Entrepreneurship Masterclass at FMS Delhi, Faculty of Management Studies, Delhi University, hosted by Global Governance Initiative GGI. So, Sana, thank you so much for taking time to speak with us. Welcome to our podcast. So, जो मैंने बताया उसके अलावा, if you can introduce in your own words and address the audience.
Sorry, can you just repeat that? Sure. Firstly, thank you so much to the team of ProBano for reaching out to me. And I am very happy to impact sector. So it's a great initiative you guys are doing. I have also tried to tune in to some of the podcasts at 6 p.m. every day. And I think there's something for all of us to learn from the amazing insights and the amazing professionals you connect us with. So really, thank you. And I'm really honored to be here to speak to everyone today. Secondly, because of the unprecedented times, I really hope everyone who's watching this, I hope everyone is safe and healthy. It's actually a very difficult time for everyone, but I guess we need to power through and be safe. So maybe, first I would like to start off with giving my brief introduction, where I could talk about my background and what I'm doing currently. Then I would like to move on to tell you all about the challenges that we face through this journey, and then the solutions that we sought out. And lastly, I would like to give a few and I wish I knew about these things before I started out. And hopefully, these pointers will give you all a jumpstart in your own careers.
Great, Sana, thank you so much. आपका जर्नी कैसा रहा? Like it said, from investment banking to social development. तो वो transition कैसे हुआ? What inspired you, and how has that journey been for you so far?
Sure. So let's go way back into, let's talk about school time. I took up commerce at that time, and this time, we used to know that there are only limited options available, and we didn't have too much clarity at the time that okay, maybe if we want to do MBA later, or we want to do CA, we should take a BCom. If you're interested in finance, you should maybe think about economics or BFSI or something. So not a lot of clarity. I took commerce, by the way, and then so economics was a subject that really piqued my interest at the time, and that's all I really knew what I wanted to do because it interested me. So there wasn't any clear traction or path that 5 years down, where do I see myself? 10 years down, where do I see myself? But then for the time being, I thought, okay, it's okay to know that okay, economics is something that is interesting. So then I went at full speed with that. I did economic honors at LSR in 2010, passed out 2013. While pursuing my course in economics, I actually realized that maybe this is not the field I want to be in. I started learning more about finance. And then I realized finance is something that is very interesting. I started taking a lot of internships during that time, worked alongside college, and tried to find out that because finance is a very broad field. So it was very important for me to find out which sector exactly within the finance field also is interesting, right? Because there's investment banking, there are many sectors within investment banking also. There's financial consulting, there's financial advisory, there you can work in a loan sector, you can work with the banks, a lot of other things, and of course there is the fintech sector also right now, which wasn't very popular back then. So a lot of things there. So when I realized that finance is something that I'm truly interested in, I started taking a lot of side courses in that. I took up CFA at that point, and then by default I was lucky enough to get placed in an investment banking firm in Gurgaon called BMR Advisors. The company is now merged with KPMG India, and I worked there in the mergers and acquisition team for about 3.5 years. So now another side of the story is the community angle. So throughout my school and my college, a huge amount of emphasis was placed always on social contribution, and how we should all be conscious citizens at the end of the day. During this time now, while I was working at BMR, and actually in any field that you might be working in, it's very difficult to try to find time for yourself. Because I was able to I wasn't able to do too much for the society. And then I started feeling a little hollow. So while, for example, I was getting promoted, uh, due credit was given, I was enjoying the work, but then somehow it didn't feel right. I yearned ultimately to drive social change and create value at a possibly larger scale. So at this time, I tried to look for some flexible volunteering opportunities, that maybe I can use my skills and help a social enterprise. For example, I could do something very closely. So I was looking for specific skill based opportunities where I could learn about the business, icon portal that would allow me
Sana, could you
to do
repeat
this.
the last
And then when I spoke to
20
my
to
friends,
30
I
seconds?
realized,
थोड़ा network issue आ रहा है, your voice broke down completely. So could you repeat the last 20 to 30
no
seconds?
problem. Yeah, sure. So I'm saying that, while I realized that I was feeling hollow and I wanted to using my skills. I started looking out for, I Googled and hearing of, for example, fundraising is something I know, right, at that point. And I thought maybe I can help an NGO raise donations or take out a grant application, because I felt that's something I'm professional in. But then when I tried searching online, I couldn't get any such opportunity. And then when I spoke to some of my friends, I realized everyone was pretty much in the same boat. They wanted to help, they wanted to do their bit, but they weren't getting flexible opportunities the way they had wanted to. And they didn't know whom they could trust or look out to for this. So this is what led to the creation of the digital initiative of my groups called TSE, which is the social corporate, same as the brand name. And what the platform basically does it gives you flexible volunteering opportunities, which includes filtering options, including where you want it to be, pin code based, activity based, location based, online or remote opportunity, or any cause that you want to work towards, and 10 many more such filters. Just the best solution we can to them. And basically, become to the idea of TSE. It's because I was continuously. Yeah, I'm actually connected to the network only. Just a moment.
गाइस थोड़ा सा नेटवर्क इशू आ रहा है. वेदर कहीं पे पूरा इंडिया में कहीं पे वेदर ठीक नहीं लग रहा है. कल से हर किसी के पीछे वेदर का तूफान का प्रॉब्लम आ रहा है. सो विल ट्राई टू फिक्स दैट. एटलीस्ट ऑडियो आ जाए. आई थिंक दैट्स मोर इम्पोर्टेंट देन वीडियो. बट विल ट्राई टू फिक्स दैट. सो सना, द सोशल कॉर्पोरेट,
Yes.
हाउ डिड दैट हैपन और उसका जर्नी कैसा रहा?
Yes. So as I mentioned, can you all hear me now? Okay, perfect. So I'll carry on now. So basically, when I was working at my previous firm at BMR, completely in deep into the financial advisory sector, I realized that I yearned to make social change. And then I started looking for some flexible opportunities here at the point. Since I wasn't able to find any opportunities online or any platform which gives me a skill-based volunteering opportunity from a trusted source, this is what led to the creation of forming such a platform to help such people and organizations fill the gap in the market. Now, when I was speaking to non-profits who are working on ground for various causes in Delhi, I realized that there was a lot of scope for this kind of a service or requirement. And they actually require volunteers who are giving their skills ultimately, and who are professionals in their own fields. They operate in the same way that any other business does, except they may or may not be revenue making ultimately. So this is something I felt that I wanted to address this gap in the market, address this need, and take it up full time. So I my company in 2017. I took a leap of faith and I started my company consultant, where I decided to initially give strategized and fundraising services.
Right, Sana, I think आपका voice फिर से break down हो गया. Are you still with us?
Yes.
I think तो guys आज थोड़ा नेटवर्क इशू से डील करना पड़ेगा. थोड़ा पेशेंस लेवल 10-20% आज के लिए थोड़ा एनहांस कर लेना अपना. So we'll Sana, if you can turn on your video, I guess we'll try to fix things as we go along. I guess we just have to deal with things as and when they come. So आज का for today's I'll let Mr. Sain take over first. What do you, Mr. Sain?
Thank you, Samant. Welcome, Sana. Welcome all the audience. Namaskar. Good to see I'm sure all the old people are there, who are always there. And it's going to be a very interesting next 45 minutes or so, I would say.
Mr.
So,
Sen,
Sana, you-
just a small, guys, आपके कोई भी question है, please सारे questions comment लगाते रहिए. I'll compile all of them and depending on the way things go, we'll answer them. तो पूरे podcast के end पे you know sometimes 50-55 minutes के बाद में questions आना शुरू हो जाते हैं and that time it's kind of too late to answer them. तो अभी लगा दीजिए, we'll you know try to get to them, we'll compile all of them and try to get to them in a whole. Okay, back to you, Mr. Sen. So sorry.
Yeah, Samant, you're absolutely right. So if you keep the questions flowing, it becomes that much easier for Samant to manage the whole process. Yeah, Sana, you talking about your the social corporate, and that's a very lovely initiative that you have.
Thank you.
I do understand that you are running after numbers in your merger and acquisition, and you were looking at just crunching numbers, looking at numbers, making deals,
Yeah.
and I understand the feeling of hollowness. You were not creating or making change.
Right.
And I do believe that that's the reason why you decided to make change happen and you set up your corporation. And what I understand and where you got sort of your voice broke is you've set this up as a digital platform.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a platform where the various people with various skills get on board, and you have the people who actually need that skill and they sort of link up with each other and they get their work done.
Right. Absolutely. Very beautifully put.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Now, for the benefit of everybody who's listening in and for us, could you explain how this platform of yours work? Because I think there's a lot of information that you can share with the audience and with all of us who can actually benefit and in whatever things that they are doing and benefit from all the skills that you're putting together. You're basically you're getting one onto the other, and you're in the middle of, you're in the thick of things. So it's over to you on how it can be beneficial.
Sure, absolutely. So as I mentioned, anyone who is a social organization and is looking for certain professional tasks to be done, or even not even just professional, but just volunteering opportunities, exciting opportunities in general, because the nonprofit sector, I feel, is constantly evolving and there are amazing opportunities available out there. And I would love to discuss more on that down the line. And also, so they should feel free to post their opportunities. The platform is completely free of use right now for the social organizations. And in fact, any social enterprise who may or may not be revenue making is also more than welcome to join our platform and post such opportunities, even internships. And we are also moving on to adding volunteer employment opportunities down the line, because we want to ultimately, we aim to become a niche, make this platform a niche for the impact, to benefit the impact sector. And I want to, at the end of it, make it a platform which gives the resources possible, all the resources possible, to help social organizations and enterprises to succeed. Similarly, for anyone, any individual who's looking to do their bit in any way possible, it might be, so an interesting part is that given the COVID situation, of course, you might be thinking that how is the platform working right now, because all these opportunities usually happen on the platform, at the site office or on ground, right? So we are encouraging and we are assisting nonprofits now to add opportunities which can be remotely done. So remote work opportunities as well as adding certain micro tasks, because they do need a lot of services which are just micro tasks at the end of the day, and then they can add them online, which can easily be remotely taken up by professionals. So we help them at the back end by screening the profiles who are applying for these opportunities and basically matching if this is a good fit. So when I started speaking to nonprofits 3 years back, they mentioned that one big problem is that while there might be another platform which is giving a similar service, they get more than 80 applications a day for the same position, and they don't have the kind of human resource capacity to go through all these applications. And even if they go through all these applications and then they do finalize on one, that person ends up not even joining ultimately. That person turned out not to be serious. So this is something where, again, we are trying to enter the sector, and I have someone on my team who is doing the screening on behalf of the nonprofit. So in fact, if someone applies for the opportunity, someone screens the opportunity, the application at the back end from my team, and only then, if we approve at our end, then it is passed on to the nonprofit. This is what we are giving from our side. Also, as I mentioned, given the COVID situation, we are encouraging remote work opportunities as well as micro tasks, for which even volunteers should be able to get instant gratification by completing those tasks. If the nonprofit approves that their work has been completed, they will automatically get a digital certification also for it. So these are the things that we are bringing onto our platform.
That's a brilliant model, I would say.
Yeah.
So basically, for example, let's take an example. If I want to contribute to something, so I simply get onto your platform, and is there a registration I have to do, or is it something
Right.
that happens?
Sure. So there are two options when anyone joins our website. It's a website, by the way, not an app right now. If you just log on to the socialcorporate.com, there will be two options to register. You can either register as a social organization, or you can register as a volunteer.
Okay.
For anyone who might be looking for an opportunity. Yeah.
So great. So
Mr. Sen.
And then there is a basic profile section that we go through. And then, of course, you're free to choose and apply for whichever opportunities feel right for you.
Excellent. Samant, you said something.
Yeah, we got a comment from Himanshuji who says, could you, Mr. Sen, could you increase your volume a bit?
Hello.
Yeah, you will have that setting options in your audio settings.
Yeah, as I do that, I'll continue to ask you a question, Sana.
Sure.
Okay. So that's great. Now, the next question is, suppose there is a social enterprise who is looking for some sort of an assistance or a help or something. So how do they get onto it?
To the digital platform, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it goes through the same process. They can register themselves as a social organization.
Yeah.
And they can come on board. And through a very simple procedure, they can fill out the basic form details to fill out their opportunity, which will basically, at that point, we will ask them about all the questions pertaining to the filtering options that we are giving our volunteers out there, so that they can they have the ability to choose the exact opportunities that they're looking for. So it's a simple 5-minute procedure that we've kept to make it as painless as possible for everyone to come on board.
That's lovely. So basically, the people who are looking for such opportunities, they simply go and register, and they have everything that is there. Can they choose the skill set they want from what is available? And do you have a bank?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
So we have done so. Imagine if you've ever been if everyone's been on the platform like Naukri.com, and the kind of things you see over there. If you're looking for an employment opportunity, you would look for university that you want to be placed in. You would look for a particular industry or a cause that you want to be placed in. There might be a certain, maybe you're looking for a stipend, you're looking for a paid opportunity. That might be another option over here. Or they might, like you rightly mentioned, there are, of course, certain skill sets or certain industry function-based work that they might be looking for. Another option over here could be that they might be looking for, an at-home, work-from-home position, or a flexible, or they just want to help volunteer on the weekend. Or maybe it's a full-time employment opportunity they're looking for in a non-profit sector. We have covered all these criteria, and I do hope that we will continue to make it more robust in the future.
That's lovely. Samant, is that better? My voice, I mean?
Yeah, could be a bit higher.
Could be a bit higher. Is that better now?
Yeah, that would be better. Yeah, you were at negative 25 decibel. I need you at least at negative 10.
I'm still negative, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. We'll try to make it a positive.
Yeah, I guess you'll have to hold your mic closer to your mouth like you're doing now.
Yeah. Okay, Sana. Yeah. So now, if somebody wants to start off an enterprise or everybody's calling things startup now, but basically someone wants to venture into this social enterprise sector, and they need something at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So how does your platform help that group, a team of persons who has this dream? They have the dream, they have the desire to do something for the society, and they want to make a change. They're looking for feasible options
Hmm.
that will make it happen.
Yeah.
And they look at the viability, whether it's going to work or not.
Right.
So basically, so these guys have a desire. Can you help them, or is your platform helping them with the feasibility? That means what are the options that are there? What are the tools or what are toolkit and techniques they need? As well as the viability. Does it make sense? Is it actually something that the society needs?
Right.
And if it does, then you have a game on. So yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm very glad you asked this question. In fact, this is something that I definitely wanted to address through this podcast. One point I would like to touch upon at this point is that while I've explained the digital initiative of our group, I haven't yet talked about my other companies and what we exactly do in them.
So you're a
And
serial entrepreneur.
yeah, you can say that. Well, technically, my first venture was actually when I was in class 4. So yeah, that could count definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. So actually, what are other companies, which is SH Consultants and KH Consultants? We have two separate companies. What we basically do is initially, if you recall, I mentioned that I started off to offer fundraising advisory to nonprofits. Because I felt obviously fundraising is something that the professionals, there is a dire need for this in the sector, and there aren't many professionals who want to get involved in the sector, even with the coming in of the CSR teams. And it being mandatory for profitable ventures to give up certain percentage of their profits for social impact. So when I actually started working on a few transactions initially, I faced a lot of challenges, and I felt that the sector was not completely sound and it was extremely unstructured at the moment at that time 3 years back, and it was still at a very nascent stage in India, I felt. And this is the point where I started understanding about the other issues that social organizations are facing right now. That could include operational efficiencies, that could include digitalization. They didn't know much about digital marketing and or product innovation, or even the certain aspects or the thought of becoming revenue making someday was not something that most of most nonprofits have considered. And most of them I found were wholly dependent completely on donations. So this is somewhere I felt I wanted to help. And I was a little confused, whether I should head back into the industry, I should get a job again, because it was very comfortable, right? Getting back into the bubble, investment banking sounds great, the work was good, it pays well, everything was great. But I actually, after a few months, I decided to just continue to just steer on, and I decided to upskill myself, because when I ventured out, all I was bringing with me was my empathy and my fundraising skills. That was all I had with me. So in terms of hard skills as well as soft skills, I felt I didn't really stand a chance, and I wasn't sure that even if I want to help these organizations, where do I start from? How do I start building my portfolio? I didn't have a portfolio to begin with. How do I crack my first project? What is the right time to employ the first person? And how do I ensure that the person I'm able to meet their salary for the next consistently in the long run? So all these things were, these were like big nightmares that I was actually, ultimately I was driven by these nightmares. And what the only thing that actually kept us going continuously was upskilling ourselves. So I ensured that me and my team, we all continuously upskilled ourselves. In fact, even when I started hiring some people for my team, it wasn't so much that I was looking for hard skills, technical skills in them. They shouldn't know exactly, in fact, even freshers for that matter. I actually preferred hiring freshers who did not have any experience. What was I looking for? I was looking for the same zeal that I bring to the table in them. And at the end of it, your attitude with which you work, the passion that you bring to the table, or your edge, that is what is going to set you apart in life. And that passion was really something I was looking for. For example, even when I frame my case studies during an interview, when I'm looking to hire for my team, I'm always giving, I don't care at all about the technical aspect of it. I just try to understand that do they have the problem solving nature in them? That is what I'm looking for ultimately. So what my nonprofit basically, what my company now basically is doing, we are looking And now that we've structured over the last few years, we are looking to help social enterprises become sustainable in the long run, reduce their dependency on only donations, and help them build sustainable business models. And all these things can be done by strategic consulting. Fundraising advisory can be alongside, and more importantly, focus on their digital strategy and product innovation. So again, I'm coming from a completely non-tech background. I've given you all my background. I've only done bachelor's in economics. I'm from a commerce and finance academic background, and tech was something that really intimidated me till 2 years back, completely intimidated by tech. But now I feel I am more comfortable, and I find myself working on products for large scale government projects, where we are actually working on things, and I'm heading product teams in artificial intelligence, or now we are doing projects in machine learning to an extent as well. So it's actually been been an incredible journey for us. And over the last few years, I have learned that upskilling is the only thing, and continuous adaptability. These two things are the only things that really kept us going. And this is how I feel I've been able to make an impact. So now coming back to your question, sorry for the long introduction and the backstory. I felt it was
very
important for this
engrossing.
question.
It was very
All
engrossing
right,
because
thank
it set the stage, and it's
Yeah.
lovely. Yeah. So now, let's come back to the point that you're going to make.
Great. So I recently took up a course by MIT where we talked about how anyone who's looking to enter this sector, a fresh social enterprise, as you put it, how should they go on to plan? And I found it very interesting. In fact, the reason I took up that course was so that I'm able to help organizations understand it and help organizations better in take on their own ventures now, and in a more structured manner that is also globally accepted in the long run. So what the course ultimately revolved around was that before starting out, I encourage everyone to address 4 questions. Firstly, what is the impact opportunity that you're looking to counter? Which basically involves that, what is the opportunity? What is, in terms of quantifiable also, how do you even measure this impact? And what is the effect that you are trying to bring about? If you're reaching out to certain beneficiaries, or let's say you're trying to solve some social problems for the population in general, what action do you want the population to take? The next important question is the theory of change. Why do you think that your solution will actually impact your identified target area or target problem? What will you do? And why do you think that thing is going to work? So describing these chain of actions that you are planning on taking on and hopefully spark, this will be very important, I feel, in identifying and checking for any assumptions that you might be making. At this point, it is important to also look at the industry reports and see that, if you're looking to impact a small district within a city, then it is important to understand how big the problem is that you are trying to identify. The next stage over here is the approach to scale. Now, let's say that you already have a prototype, you have done your research, you know what you are in for. The next step, let's say that, for the district in which you had started out, let's say that it worked well over there and there were a lot of learnings, right? That something worked and something did not. The next stage over here at this point is an approach to scale, because eventually you wouldn't only want to stay just within that district. You might look to expand in certain ways. Now, this could be an approach to scale. This could be a vertical expansion. This could be a horizontal expansion. What is a vertical expansion? A vertical expansion is basically that you are already doing, say, service A. Now you will be to expand, you're adding, let's say, services B, C, and D to your platform, which could be for multiple reasons. Is because you feel there is a need in the sector and the sector could benefit from it. And it's something that it is plausible for you to give, which is something that my firm did. We kept upskilling ourselves and started offering a bigger service package at the end of it to give a more wholesome consulting. A different thing could be a horizontal scaling, which basically means that you went from sector A, district A, to multiple districts, or maybe you went on to a multinational path. So how you're going to scale up is also a very important sector. And having some kind of a idea about how you're going to effectively use your capital, the donations or other resources, what is your revenue model going to be? Because ultimately the aim over here, the underlying aim is to be sustainable in the long run, and the various ways that you will be able to scale up your impact. The conclusion ultimately is that these three core concepts should create a very good basic pitch by answering three main questions. The three main questions ultimately are going to be that what is the problem that you're trying to solve? What do you do and why will it work? And thirdly, how will you do more of this in the future while being sustainable at the same time? So all these points are very important to keep in mind. Now that I'm engrossed and I'm learning and I'm deep diving into the tech sector to whatever knowledge I'm able to possibly gather, from my basic understanding is that you need to have a completely open mind. And believe it or not, even with the low capital that you might have, access to low capital, anything is possible if you put your mind to it and if you are able to logically approach any problem. Is there a more efficient way of doing it? And I would like to cite one example at this point. So one example, I really like this model that someone had made. So it was an Indian impact entrepreneur only who had started, and she tried to solve one simple problem with a very simple solution. Pardon me, I don't remember the name of the enterprise, but what she did was and this is actually extremely valid in today's circumstance about, washing hands. It revolves around that. Now, common problem in most of the economies, especially developing economies, is that children they run away from washing hands, so lacking the major hygiene issues are there. So what she did was that she created a soap which basically children can use, and they can kind of just color on their hands, and then they can use that soap to wash with it, and it takes about 20 seconds to get the color out. So it becomes like a game for them, and then they end up washing their hands for 20 to 30 full seconds. Of course, the tap might be running out, but that's a different problem for another day.
Yeah, okay, but that's a brilliant idea, actually. Yeah,
absolutely, and such a small and an innovative idea at a small level. And right now, I understand. I was reading an article, and it's being implemented by the government across African countries, and it's actually working wonders. So the most creative approach to the complex problems out there can be sought out if you really just put your mind to it, ultimately. So it doesn't even matter whether you're from a tech background or not. It's all about the logical approach and the computational thinking that you bring to the table. And that is something that I have learned and I'm trying to build on.
That's brilliant, San. Actually, what you touched upon is a philosophy that I hold very close to my heart. You talked about beneficiaries.
Yeah.
And I never talk about customers. I always talk about beneficiaries.
Mm-hmm.
We have to go beyond.
Absolutely.
And see who actually benefits from whatever I want to do. And you touched upon that. And that's brilliant. Not because I like it, but actually it is. It is a brilliant concept. And would you say that we, and especially in the times that we're living in the environment that we live in, would you say that we have a tendency of labeling that, okay, you can only do tech if you're an engineer, you can only do finance if you have studied whatever CA or something. So we tend to put labels and say that, oh, you've not done tech, so you can't do tech. And what I do believe is labeling restricts each and every one of us to give full flow to our imagination. And so how do you, first of all, do you agree with the labeling concept that I told you about? And if you do, and if you don't, how do you change it?
So yeah, absolutely fantastic question again. So in fact, my journey is one of the, it's a premier example of what you just talked about labels, right? So that's why I touched upon the story of what happened when I was in school. And, let's start off with class 10th. You're supposed to choose between commerce, science, or arts. Why? So, at that point, so it's a hilarious story. I was interested in commerce because I was interested in business, finance, economics. I was very interested in biology. And then I was really interested in history, but I couldn't choose all these options. And these things are a little more flexible outside India and certain economies, but unfortunately, we did not have that option at the time. And when I seemed very uncertain about what it is that I exactly want to do, because there were many different fields that interested me, including computer science, everyone felt that, I'm not sure about what I want to be, and maybe I don't have any plans for the future, and I'm not ambitious at all. And like you rightly mentioned, that certain labels were put at that time, even from a mental perspective, and which actually kind of stops us. And I mentioned earlier as well that I was extremely intimidated by different fields. Be it, like you mentioned, the tech aspect, right? And I would never, I mean, if you asked me 3 years back that would you ever get into this sector, I never even thought tech is something I would be entering. I thought that is completely off limits. And then, so if you remember, there was this thing that, if you should choose your sector, and you should probably choose science, because you can only go down the stream, you can't go up the stream. If you choose humanities, you can't do things that commerce children do or science children do. If you choose commerce, you definitely can't do what science children do, but you can do what the arts children do.
I wonder who decided all that. I wonder who decided all this.
Exactly. So these are things that have actually been told to us from generations, and everyone used to tell me that you should definitely take science because, you might not have options down the line. And I'm happy to prove everyone wrong in this. And I hope everyone is able to break free from these labels. And that is why, so when, for example, if you ask me that if any student is interested in entering the impact sector, maybe let's take up a question that what is it that they should be taking up in, say, for their bachelor's, or which stream should they be taking up, or for higher studies, for example. But the thing is, there is no such stream particularly for what you ultimately want to do. It is always about the function that you want to carry on. It's about what interests you. And mostly today's world, given how complex it's getting on a day-to-day basis, it is important for everyone to have some level of a holistic view about how the industry works, at least being able to touch upon different concepts, reading about different things, not necessarily, and maybe only upskilling yourself and taking up things or different topics that sounds interesting, that piques your interest. There is absolutely no harm in doing any of these things. And given how EdTech is actually moving forward right now, again, this was not something that was available when I was in school or in college. In fact, Google had only just come up, Facebook had just come up, and it just blew our minds at that time. But but EdTech has been absolutely fantastic, and I'm so excited to see what this sector will bring for all of us down the line. And in fact, how my every day actually works for the last 3 years. During the day, we are all working, and at night, every day, minimum 2 hours, I'm spending time to upskill myself in a new topic, that might help me or that interests me. Or even taking up a hobby or a passion, because why not?
Absolutely. That's so wonderful to hear. And I can see that Samant is getting angry with me, and Aditya is moving around. When the hell this guy is going to give it up to me? So Samant, back to you.
Yeah, before I move on to Aditya, एक चीज़ मैं बात add on करना चाहता हूँ, like what Sana said regarding कि अगर साइंस लिया तो you can downgrade to commerce या फिर arts. तो me art student, लेकिन I was always so passionate about physics, so I was just writing down if I were given free reins, क्योंकि इंडिया में तो है नहीं, I would have chosen physics plus finance plus psychology plus English.
That's a lovely combination.
It's a lovely combination, but it's not a realistic combination in India.
Why not? But like I just want to say something which Bertrand Russell used to say. You only need to learn 3 things, and there are 3 R's. The first R is reading, the second R is writing, and the third R is arithmetic. Yeah, and you can live your life with just the 3 R's and be a success at it. Samant, over to you.
Yeah, and also the one thing I like about entrepreneurship, or like the free market basically, is the only thing you need to have formal education for is, I would say, probably medical. I think the medical field is the only one where you actually need to have formal education and get the licenses and whatnot. But then, in the field of entrepreneurship, you can, like, education, you can get in. You don't need to have a B.Ed degree like me. Aditya is in the education industry. Actually, he's been in the education industry 2 years before me.
Okay.
And that's the beauty, I think, like self-learning is a very important thing. And besides the requirement for licenses as a doctor, I think every field is open for everybody to enter. You just have to figure out how you're going to make your impact.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I definitely don't want someone operating on me who's learned it through Coursera.
Or the Idea Network College.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, I'm a proud graduate of all 35 different degrees on Idea Network, but we're going to
Oh,
get to that
wow.
later on. Over to you, Aditya.
Thank you so much, Samant. And before I ask any question to Sana, I would like to point out Samant is a forgetful guy. So he says that only doctors require licenses, but he's forgetting that he is himself an RCI licensed special educator. So he also needs license in his own work. I think he forgot that.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but actually, I
Um,
want to clarify this. But then, in a normal classroom or in a school, you need the license. But if you want to be a third party, like outsider entrepreneur or like edtech entrepreneur, you don't need the license.
right. No, that's very true. I was just
So,
making a joke about it. So
okay, you gotta let me know when to laugh. So,
yeah. But thank you so much, Samant, and thank you so much, Sana. I have been hearing the last 50 minutes of amazing, answers, and I've got to learn a lot. I think one big thing to learn is, how to have that impact mindset. How, you were mentioning that small solution, which was not rocket science, but then it was innovative. So how we can do small
Right.
incremental innovations, and we don't really need rocket science to change lives. I think there is still a lot of scope for simple innovations to affect lives and impact lives. And I think it's amazing that you're working in the impact sector. um, you have talked about what you do right now. I will again go back to your journey a bit, and I want to ask you that if somebody wants to become an impact advisor like you or an impact consultant like you, so what do they do? So do they do a bachelor of economics like you and then upskill themselves? Are there any specific courses for that? Do you recommend doing any specific courses for that?
Sure. So if we talk about impact sector as a whole, so as I mentioned earlier, that I would love to touch upon different sectors, different branches within the impact sector that are available for anyone out there who might be interested in entering the sector. So maybe I would like to first just touch upon these different sectors, and then we can jump on to what academic experience you need to get into these different branches. So a few things that I have personally understood or learned about. Firstly, there is impact consulting and policy consulting. So again, that is something where my firm also comes into the picture. And then, in fact, you'll be surprised to know that many big four firms also, such as EY, KPMG, PwC, these firms also have an impact and policy consulting arm. So consulting is a very, very broad term. It could include anything. It could include fundraising advisory. It could include strategic advisory, helping you structure your business model, helping you scale up, increasing operational efficiency. There could be another concept called monitoring and evaluation, which is very sought after and very famous in the impact sector, where basically you hire a team to do the evaluation of the impact that your enterprise is creating. Another very important and a common one is, of course, there are plethora of venture capital firms and impact funds, which are again increasingly coming up around the world. So if you're interested in combining your passion within finance and impact, then this is something that you might be interested in. They invest in social enterprises from a grant perspective as well as an equity perspective. Then, of course, you always have the option to work for large foundations or any foundation, such as there's Bill Melinda Foundation, Azim Premji, Give India, Goonj, Smile. It's a lot of options there. Then, of course, most of the corporates these days have a separate team called the Corporate Social Responsibility Team. Another different angle over here is that you can always work for social enterprises such as ProBano, which may be tech based or may not be. There might be a lot of edtech startups, for example, like I just mentioned, ProBano. Of course, another option over here is always to start your own social enterprise, having your own venture, basically. So it's very important here to understand. I definitely, you must have seen that I've touched upon a lot of different types of branches within the impact sector. So not just as an impact consultant, But it's more, like I said, consulting also is a very broad term. You could be a consultant, or you could be a subject matter expert in healthcare, and you could enter this sector. Like I said, the social sector, you just need to bring your empathy with you, and everything else will fall into place. If you are able to drive impact with that passion, if you're able to follow your vision, at the end of the day, what what you bring with you, whatever field you do your bachelor's in, it doesn't matter if you are going for higher education or not. All that matters is that which field were you really interested in. You could get into, you could do economics or BCom or anything else and still get into policy consulting. I know someone who did bachelor's in biology, and then right now they're working closely with non-profit impact think tanks, right? So like I said, that you need to just have a passion and a drive, and you should be always open to exploring many options. If you know exactly what you want, there's subject matter experts in, you can be a consultant in any diverse field. Ultimately, there is no one common path that you need to choose. So if you're in school, it's important to know which subjects interest you. Try to find out, and of course, with companies like ProBano, it's becoming easier for students now to explore options and the endless possibilities that are available even in India, and to really see that which is the subject that interests them, to take them to the next stage. And then when you cross a certain stage, always keep in mind that try to bring on as many experiences as possible. Like when I was in college, I did a lot of internships. I even worked with a lot of non-profits. At that time, I was a part of the NSS India, where I worked with a lot of non-profits to understand, where I wasn't just volunteering or teaching children or something generic. I was actually involved in an operational level, a supply chain mechanism, and the basic things of how operations are run on the ground level, be it impact or a for profit. Ultimately, you learn a bit from every experience that you take part in, and that is where you actually realize what you really want to do or what interests you.
So, guys, there's the answer. As Sana says, if you have done any field, any specialization, she did in economics. If you have done in finance, it would be great. But even if you have done in something like a botany or zoology, if you bring your empathy with you, that's something I put a pin on. That if you bring your empathy with you, I think you can make it in the impact sector, and it's amazing. The kind of work that you're doing. Because you're mixing sustainability with impact. What happens usually with social work is people assume that there is no money, people assume that there is no sustainability, and that is why they kind of
Absolutely.
the initial resistance is there to join it. So I think you're doing a great job at
Absolutely.
building sustainability into impact. And I would
Thank you
want to
so
read
much.
some audience comments with your permission. So Anita
Sure.
ji says, "Welcome, Sana. You're truly an inspiration," and a lot of clapping emojis. Thank you so much, Anita ji.
Thank you so much.
Krishna, our old viewer who is back after a long time. Thank you so much, Krishna, for returning back to the podcast. He says, "Good evening, everyone. Welcome, Sana ma'am." Pushkar has a question. Krishna also says, "My weekend plan is to catch the previously missed podcasts. By the way, proud of you, Sana ma'am. Keep the good work up."
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So Pushkar asks one question. Today I got to know about a profile such as an impact consultant.
Mm.
Since we are witnessing a startup boom, how much of a difference would there be in the next 10 years of having impact consultants? And what if we did not have them at the first place?
All right, great question. So like I mentioned earlier, impact consultant again is a very, very broad term. I just interacted with 3 different people over the last 7 days who are apparently impact consultants. And while it sounds as if it's the same profile as mine, the way they are driving sustainability in the sector or the services that they are contributing are completely different from what I'm doing. There is no overlap at all. So having said that, uh, like I said, 3 years back when I entered this sector, I felt strongly with my first-hand experience that the sector lacked professionalism to some extent. Of course, there are a few non-profits, large foundations, which are backed by a large amount of capital, and then they are able to become sustainable because they have a continuous source of donations. But then what about the rest of the startups or even in the impact sector, right? So it's important for them. It's very difficult for them to bring a certain kind of professionalism and a structure or a structured approach to the page, right, to their company. So this is where I feel impact consultants can actually enter. And this is what something that I'm trying to do. Ultimately, I want to be in a position and create a platform through which I can empower social entrepreneurs through all my learnings and give them incubation support. This is basically the strategy towards which my group TSE is moving towards. And the sector, I feel few years down the line, the sector, even not just few years down the line, but even right now, the kind of options, the plethora of options I talked about, or the branches within the impact sector, that itself shows how much involvement or how quickly this sector also is moving, And I mean, there are fantastic opportunities right now that everyone can be a part of, should they want to. Again, like I said, that wherever your expertise lies, there are a lot of options, and there's something for everyone at the end of the day. So the future essentially is that the sector is going to get more and more structured, and entrepreneurs will be willing to look at this sector from a different perspective as well. And that even a small innovative solution can be made not just profitable, but more sustainable. I would like to stress on the sustainability point over here. Like I said, that I try to talk to nonprofits and assist them, and not depending ultimately on purely donations. Maybe they need donations or grants initially to take them to a prototype stage, if certain capital is required. And that too can be made cost effective if consultants are on board, or if you're able to think from that perspective, to drive a more logical based solution to scale up. But sustainability is definitely key over here, and my entire model in fact revolves around this.
Right. So sustainability is key and impact is important. So, both can't live without each other, I think, because anything which is not making impact might not be as sustainable also, because people will ultimately not choose to go ahead with it. So, Sana, with this, I think, it has been pleasure hearing you for the last, 60 minutes, and you've been telling us a lot of things which I think will carry ahead with us, all of us. I would want to ask you, and it's a follow-up to the last question. When you work with startups, or when so obviously, every startup has this thing where they need to find customers, or where they need to, get customers on board. Do you feel that startups these days are genuinely themselves also driven to make impact, or do you feel that this is something which we as impact drivers have to drive within the ecosystem, and it is our responsibility to infuse that, because currently it's not there? So is it there, or is it not?
You mean a more number-driven impact?
So basically, I mean that the mindset to make impact, is it there within the startups, or are they more driven on ki kitna paisa kamaun main? Like, is that the more like prevalent mindset that you see, or do you see that, okay, startups are actually willing to make impact, and it's not very difficult to convince them on the fact that they should also view, the SDGs, or they should also view the social impact they are making? Like, is it the mindset which is there in the ecosystem?
Sure. So there are a couple of different perspectives I can add over here. Now let's talk about, over here, I would like to touch upon the point of venture financing as well. Fundraising, what we all call, right? And the VC space, which all the startups are looking at right now. So the whole concept of doing business traditionally is not really very prevalent in today's days. And everyone who wants to do a startup starts actually by thinking that how can I raise funds? That's the first thing I've seen most new entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs coming on and thinking about. Now, at this point, I would like to mention that my company itself, I have been working purely on my savings. There has been no funding involved, and I have taken out my business or scaled it up completely in a traditional way. Now, having said that, I'm not saying that fundraising is wrong, but to an extent, I have worked on a few fundraising deals, and I do understand that there is a certain kind of pressure that the investors might be putting on the entrepreneurs to drive bigger numbers, so that ultimately, even investors are looking to get their profit out of it, right? So everyone wants to see their multiplier, that I exited with a 5x multiplier, and then they will try to probe the entrepreneur to drive in a certain way that they feel is right, to be able to achieve their numbers, to give them ultimately a exit. So then I feel, to an extent, startups are actually a bit pressurized because of the numbers that they have to gather at the end of the day ultimately, and then somewhere maybe driving impact is not really a priority ultimately. And this might or might not be true even for impact entrepreneurs, to an extent, of course, while their long-term vision is driven by impact, but then the daily operations might or might not be moving towards that long-term vision. It might actually be, let's see, that 6 months we have to get these numbers so that we can get the next round of funding, and then we will see what we have to do. Then we might consider becoming profitable or sustainable. And I feel to a large extent, I feel that should not be done. But then it really depends. Sometimes investors can be extremely helpful. Like there are a lot of incubation centers, there are a lot of funds, in fact, which actually add a huge value instead of just adding capital. They bring their network, they bring their experience, and they're able to mentor and guide you in the right direction, which is also key most of the time. So it's very important for entrepreneurs. So it is, like I said, it's a mixed perspective. But I do urge any aspiring entrepreneurs to be wary of this fact that even if they get funding support, they should always stay true to what their long-term vision for their enterprises, whether it is bringing out impact, benefiting the consumers or the beneficiaries, and working towards the true goal, at the same time being cost effective and sustainable.
Right. So everyone, I think, got pointers for a very good, complete business, and it's a great note to end on. So Samant, over to you.
I actually had a few things in mind. I think on that note मैं अभी लाऊंगा तो the conversation goes back 20 minutes. तो मैं बीच में enter नहीं करूँगा. On that positive note, with Sana's own quote, I would like to end today's podcast. It doesn't matter what your educational background is. If you carry empathy with you, you'll go ahead. With that being said, everybody, thank you for coming in, the audience members, Krishna, Anita ji, Pushkar Das, and all the questions. Thank you for your questions, comments, and insights. Mr. Sen, Aditya, you too, thank you for your questions as well. And of course, Sana, thank you so much for taking time to be with us. बहुत अच्छा लगा, like, development sector में ही there's something different perspective, I would say. Like we've had different people from the educational development sector या फिर rural development, but then this is something like थोड़ा अलग perspective से. So it was great to hear all your stories and everything you were saying. So thank you.
Great, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure and a very enriching experience for me to be here and engage with all of you. This is definitely a very fun podcast.
Great. Thank you. Most welcome, and thank you for coming. So guys, stay home, stay home, stay indoors, wash your hands, and आज थोड़ा outro बोल रहा हूँ मैं. Okay. Let's try that again. Take number 2. So everybody, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your comments, insights, and questions. Stay home, stay indoors, wash your hands, and we'll see you tomorrow 6 p.m. Same time on Facebook Live. Like and follow our page and turn on post notifications to get notified when we do go live. Take care now. Bye-bye.